Irashaimase. Hello and welcome to Fitaurus Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fitaurus. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this Saturday we have Super Weekend Mode, a hybrid puzzle shoot 'em up that recently released on Steam. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Pixel Teriyaki, Super Weekend Mode is this... On the surface, it looks like this light game, but there's a lot of deep, addictive, and hard gameplay that will definitely keep you coming back. So we played this princess, who you can go and see dancing around on the screen, who's had her stuff stolen by that guy that she's chasing up in the top right, and we need to get that stuff back. So the game does have a tutorial which will explain all the systems, but they're relatively basic and I'll cover most of those. There's also a config where you can change your controls. The controls are relatively basic, but they start bound to the keyboard. You can use controllers, you'll just have to bind those controls yourself. As far as resolution and other settings, those are handled by the Unity launcher when the game starts. So let's get cooking! As we start the game, we're taken to this configure screen where we select our difficulty. We also select whether we want autofire on and off, and also our princess's outfit. So the game difficulty largely dictates how much HP the bosses have. So we can see as many bosses as possible. I'll keep the difficulty lower for today's run. We also will have autofire on so my brain doesn't melt and come out my ears. And then there's the princess outfit. So there's a classic one which will give you upgrades based on your life. The princess outfit, which is for the beginners as it mentions here, and will keep you full of lives. The gunner outfit, which is my favorite, basically guarantees you'll get shot upgrades after every stage. Tank outfit for barriers so you can make mistakes and be just fine. The runner outfit will increase the speed of the game at a much faster pace than any of the other outfits, and the Daredevil outfit, which is your super difficult, you have one life to clear the game in. For the purposes of today's run, I'll take the Gunner outfit. Once you've selected your outfit difficulty and autofire, you press confirm, and we're into the game itself. So we're dumped right into the action. So the game itself, like I said, looks relatively basic right off the bat. We have these two paddles that we can control, and you can also control your shot, but since we've chosen to have auto fire on, we don't have to worry about the shot, we'll just continually fire. What were we doing here? Well, we're trying to get shots into the boss to deal damage. The boss's life is that number in the bottom right of the screen. Once that drops down to 0, the stage will be complete and we'll move on to the next stage. We're also trying to go and build up chains for scores, and how do we do that? We gain chain from shooting the boss as well as collecting those hearts. Once we complete a stage, we get upgrades, either based on our character or on how many lives we have on the stage, depending on which character we've taken. And then we move on to the next stage. Relatively basic, right? But here on the second stage is where things start to get more difficult. We'll have different patterns thrown in there. If you happen to miss a heart or dust bunnies as they start to come down, which are these cute little bunnies, the cute bunnies you don't like shoot or collect like you do the hearts, you have to actually bump them to go and knock them off the screen. It's kind of tricky as you have to get the timing right on that. If you miss a dust bunny or if you miss hearts, the screen itself shifts down. Miss enough of them and you'll be crushed and you'll lose a life. You can also lose a life if you touch these skulls that happen to be coming down. And the patterns get more and more tricky the further we get into the game, and therein lies the challenge. Even just getting to this point takes a little bit of practice to get used to. There's times when you have to sacrifice your chain just to survive. It's definitely better, or it might even be more advantageous since it would give you the chance to get in some free shots on the boss. A strategy that I found for simply progressing, if not necessarily working on collecting scores. So there are a total of 6 power-ups that you can get after the stages. They are barriers, which will defend your princess against a life loss, kind of like this here. Life Up, which gives you an additional life, so an extra life, but you can only have 3 maximum at any time. There's also a Chain Up for greater points, score up for the same, the shot up, the speed up, and that's, let's see, pretty much everything. That in of itself is what we have here in Super Weekend mode. So the game itself is actually a lot of fun to play, even if it's quite difficult. This is like once you get to stage 3, you can start to see that the patterns are tricky, and even though you're controlling just 2 paddles and which side they are on, like it can get really mind-melting really quick. So that was definitely not a very clean stage, but we did get through it and we got our usual set of power-ups. So, minus flavors. I mentioned that I did have a few issues with the controllers getting things set up correctly itself. That might have partially been my setup, partially might have been Unity. I'm not 100% sure what the biggest issue there was, but there is that to consider. And then this kind of game is all about setting like high scores and, well, trying to outdo yourself in future runs. So one thing that this game is lacking is a leaderboard, even a local one, as well as an online. It doesn't even have a high score that I could find listed anywhere. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. But the game itself, as far as plus flavors are concerned, it has a lot of really like simple but fun, addictive gameplay. It's the kind of where you're like, well, let's just do one more round, which, well, we'll get a chance to go and do. The soundtrack is also, if you like chiptune music, it's a really great, like, bright, happy chiptune soundtrack that kind of reminds me of classic Mega Man or something along those lines. Here we'll just do a princess run with the auto fire turned off so you can kind of see the pacing of your shots if you're actually in charge of firing them. Not only does it have a great soundtrack and fun, addictive gameplay, but it's actually got this great price point on Steam as well. So I highly, highly recommend that you give this game a try. There's also a demo available on itch.io, which I'll include a link to both the Steam page and the itch.io page, so you can go and check that out. This game's one of those weird hybrid foods that you're not sure if you're going to like just from looking at it. But once you give it a try, you're hooked and you have to keep on coming back for more. Well, that should wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. I appreciate you coming by so much. Thank you so much to everybody, especially all those new subscribers that are here. I really, really appreciate the support. Anyway, thank you so much, and as always, I look forward to seeing you again next week.